As a little kid, I remember seeing a picture of Venice on the wall in an Italian restaurant back home, and thinking to myself, this can't possibly be a real place. No cars, no roads, just gondolas swimming through narrow canals. Floating markets that come to you. This otherworldly island is a place that younger me could hardly imagine, and that grown-up me still can't believe exists, even after visiting. In this video, we're going to take you on a quick tour of Venice, both by foot and, of course, by boat. There's a reason that 65 million people a year come to explore this magical city of water.
This train's gonna have snacks. Yeah, I don't think Daniel knows that he's recording, but he is.
The best way to get to Venice, or just about anywhere in Italy for that matter, is by train. Now, we've ridden many different trains in many different countries, and I have to say that Trenitalia is our favorite so far. The seats are extremely comfortable, the Wi-Fi actually works somehow, and the service on board is truly exceptional.
This is the best train in the world.
The route from Florence to Venice is a quick 3.5-hour jog through some picturesque Italian countryside. Now, this is the metropolitan city of Venice. It's home to about 258,000 people, most of whom live, well, over here. This is where the airport is, and it's all around just a much more practical place for most Venetians to call home. But it's certainly not the enchanting, floating city you picture in your mind when you think of Venice. For that, let's head across this bridge, called the Liberty Bridge, to the Centro Storico, the historical island city of Venice. Surrounded by the Adriatic Sea, this island is home to only about 50,000 people. And it's actually not a single island, but rather more than 100 islands, formed by 177 canals and connected to each other by more than 400 bridges. Now let's zoom in to our entry point to this city, the Venezia Santa Lucia railway station.
Thanks, Star Trek. Appreciate it. Super charming. It reminds me of that one hotel we were in that one time.
From the moment we stepped off the train, it was apparent that we had entered a different world. It turns out, for example, that there's no Uber or Lyft here. Why is that, you ask? Well, because there's no freaking roads. To get to our Airbnb, we had a few alternative options. Option 1, we could walk up and down stairs dragging our luggage behind us. Option 2, we could also hail a water taxi. This is a private boat that will take you exactly where you need to go, but it typically costs about 100 euros. A third option was to take what's called a water bus. Now this is exactly what it sounds like. The city of Venice operates an extensive network of public transit boats, which ferry passengers from stop to stop. On the inside, they really do look like ordinary city buses. Pretty wild. At the time of our visit, a day pass cost 20 euros, or a 60-minute pass cost 7.50. These can either be purchased from a ticket station, or they can be purchased once you're on board the boat. You might also be wondering if you could just take a gondola to your hotel, and the answer is, no. That's not really how gondolas work. While gondolas were historically used for point-to-point transportation, these days they're really just a quaint little tourist activity. And be prepared for some sticker shock when you see the price of gondola rides. Before sunset, a 30-minute gondola ride will cost you 80 euros, and at sunset the price goes up to 100 euros.
Oi.
But when in Rome, or Venice, it's something you just have to do. There are a lot of places around Venice where you can catch a gondola, but not all gondola tours are created equal. Your best bet is to find a gondolier working one of the smaller canals. Every gondola tour will visit the Grand Canal, but only those picking up on the smaller canals are guaranteed to also give you that small canal experience. With this in mind, we headed to Campo San Barbara, a small square located on one of the smaller canals. We found a gondolier nearby and asked him about his route. It seemed to be a good one, and so we hopped on board. Our gondolier gave us a wonderful tour of both the small canals and the Grand Canal. He provided some excellent information about the history of the city and the process for making gondolas, which is quite the artisan trade. One more small tip: try to go out during high tide. We didn't know this beforehand, but at low tide, this green, nasty muck becomes quite visible on the side of the canals. Not enough to ruin the experience, but still kinda gross. Along the way, our gondolier kept calling out "Oi!" at each turn. This is done to alert other boatsmen to our presence, and it's a chant you will hear all through the city, including right out the back door of our AirBNB.
Oi!
Today, boys and girls, we're going to be reviewing paperwork and getting signatures on contracts.
Ooh.
Alas, the life of a digital nomad is not all fun and games. After taking care of some important chores around the Airbnb, we decided we had probably earned ourselves a treat. Oh, Italian gelato. It just doesn't get much better than that. Now that we've got our sugar fix, let's go check out some sights, starting with the most famous of all, St. Mark's Basilica. This massive cathedral is the third of its kind to stand at this spot. The first church was burned to the ground by an angry mob, and the second church stood for less than 100 years before the Doge, Domenico Contarini, decided that Venice needed a more opulent crown. The massive campanile, or bell tower, is much more modern, however. It was built in 1912 after the previous tower collapsed. During our visit to the square, carnival festivities were in full swing. It's all fun and games today, but St. Mark's Square is actually quite prone to flooding, sometimes getting as high as 7 feet. Modern engineers have solved this problem through the cunning use of placing plywood planks on stilts. Yeah, actually, it's still a pretty big issue. Speaking of questionable engineering, let's hop over to one of my favorite bridges in Venice, the Ponte dell'Accademia. This bridge is one of only 4 that spans the Grand Canal. Up until 1933, a steel bridge stood in this spot. But for some reason, it was demolished and replaced not by a stone bridge as many had hoped, but rather by a wooden bridge. The bridge used to be a popular place to attach love locks, little padlocks with inscriptions like "Jenny loves Tommy," but Venetian authorities recently cracked down and removed all these locks from the bridge. What a bunch of buzzkills. Now let's head a little further up the Grand Canal to the most famous bridge in Venice, the Ponte di Rialto. Reconstructed multiple times, the current stone bridge has stood here since the 16th century. Its impressive height and central location provide sweeping views of the Grand Canal below. On one end of the Rialto Bridge is the San Polo district, which is the oldest neighborhood in Venice and is home to the Frari, an impressive church dating to the 13th century. The Renaissance painter Titian is buried beneath the church, and many of his most famous works are on display here, including the Assumption of the Virgin and the Pesaro Madonna. On the opposite side of the Grand Canal is the Sestiere of Castello. This is the largest district in Venice, and it's home to another church named for Santa Maria Formosa. The lively square surrounding the church is dotted with great restaurants and markets. And during our visit, there were even some high-flying acrobatics. It turns out, however, that there was a height limit to join in on the fun. Our next destination is one you can only get to by boat. One of the most famous islands in the Venetian lagoon is Murano. Well, again, it's actually not one island, but rather multiple interconnected islands linked by bridges. The cheapest way to get there is again with the water bus. While it's only about 10 minutes away, once you arrive, you'll realize that Murano has a totally different feel. Unlike the narrow, winding alleyways of Venice, which feel mysterious and haunting, Murano instead has broad horizons and ample sunlight. The atmosphere was really quite refreshing.
It's just, I don't know how they think that this is a pizza that's a size for one person.
Murano is home to some beautiful architecture, such as the Basilica of Santa Maria in San Donato, which is one of the oldest in the Venetian lagoon. But Murano's true legacy is glassmaking. In the 13th century, the Doge of Venice ordered all glassmakers to move their furnaces to Murano as a precaution against fires. This transformed Murano into the glass island, with a rich tradition of exceptional glassmaking. The Glass Museum located on Murano is a must-see, featuring many incredible works of glass sculpture and some extremely, practical light fixtures such as these. If you're capable of a little more forethought than we had, I'd also highly recommend booking a tour of one of Murano's famous glass factories where you can witness the glassmaking process firsthand. We thoroughly enjoyed our visit to Murano, and I'd highly recommend checking it out, especially with it being such a quick water bus ride away. There is one more destination that's pretty convenient to get to by water bus: the airport. Unfortunately, this is where we were headed the next day. Yes, our time in Venice had come to an end, and it left me with quite a lot to reflect upon. So how would I summarize Venice? Well, if I can get a little Dickensian on you, visiting Venice was exactly what I expected, and it was nothing like I expected. It was otherworldly and magical and full of gondolas and costumes and great food. But as a little kid, I could have never imagined just how it actually feels to walk through the streets of Venice. Navigating this bizarre patchwork maze of narrow bridges and mysterious alleyways, it was simultaneously creepy and also somehow quite romantic. Venice truly is a one-of-a-kind place and something you just have to experience firsthand to fully understand. This is probably why some 65 million people flock here each year.
This is the low season? Good God.
But what are your thoughts about Venice? Is this a place you've visited before or one that's on your bucket list? Let us know in the comments below. And be sure to check out our other videos such as this one on Florence or this one on Rome. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to follow all of our latest travels.